right. Well, it's 12 o'clock on the dot. We want to go ahead and get started. But first, we want to just say thank you to everyone who's joining us today, or for those who are watching this recording after it's been posted online. We've got Miranda here also from our Coval Tacoma office. I'm also in our Coval Tacoma office. Our guest today is Rebecca Bonneville from Olympia Federal. Thank you for coming. Before we start getting into the sort of interview, I guess we would call this, we just want to mention to everyone in attendance again, thank you for coming. We're going to just kind of have a conversation with Rebecca about financing, common questions that people have. What's the process of construction lending? Maybe some of her best advice to you on getting this whole process going. But we wanted to mention too, if you have specific questions, any questions at all, please use our Q&A chat feature. We can't see you or hear you, but you can write in your own question. And as time allows, we'll try to incorporate those. If there's a question we miss, we're more than happy to give you a call after this is finished. And either myself or Miranda, or even putting you directly in touch with Rebecca here, we'll get all your questions answered. So we'll get started. And again, we just want to thank everyone for joining us today on our webinar. Okay. So Rebecca, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, just to start off with? How's your experience been with Olympia Federal and just construction lending to start with, so we kind of get to know you a little bit better?
Absolutely. Thank you again for having me. So I have been with Olympia Federal Savings for the past 8 years. My location is in Mason County in Belfair, but we lend for build wherever Coval is building. We lend in those counties, pretty much everything west of the Cascades. As far as construction, that's pretty much my niche. I do more construction loans than anything. So this is, secondhand to me. It's great to see the ability to be able to help people get into their homes. And Coval has been a fantastic builder to work with. Your plans, your bids, everything is easy and well organized, and it makes my job so much easier because it is a little bit stressful time for individuals doing their build, especially if they've never done it before. So I truly appreciate you as a builder and the packages that you put together.
Oh, thank you. No, really appreciate it. But again, we're here today really for you. We want to hear more about the construction lending process, but thank you for the compliments. You guys have been awesome to work with too for many years with Coval. Coval's been building homes for like 11 years. Mm-hmm. How long you said 8 years you've been doing the construction lending?
I've been in construction over 4 years, but I've done other lending, in that timeline. But it's really, construction has really changed in the past 2 years, especially with,
say that again,
everything that's going on. Everything that you've known before is kind of out the window and a little bit, different and unique. And, OLIFED has been around since 1906. So we have primarily done lending since then. And construction, really, we have great construction programs. So, we try to tailor that to that homeowner's needs and what they want. So, not just myself, but every loan officer has done, I believe, a Coval build. So it's allowed them to experience that in a really easy, smooth process. We look at the type of build that you provide. We call them package builds because, there's majority of the package is done by Coval, but there's owner's responsibilities attached, and those responsibilities are going to be unique unto that particular loan. The land, the builder, the homeowner's experience with the build of the home itself. So there's so many different aspects in building, and no one box is there for everyone to fit in. Those boxes.
Every project's like a snowflake. It's unique.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's unique. So yeah. But one of the things I wanted to talk about too is, I think for the biggest step I could tell anybody when they're doing a build is to talk with the lender and find out what the budget is, where they're looking at, where they can start the process, because it doesn't make any sense to, build your dream home and realize later that you can't build your dream home. You're starting to have those conversations with, Miranda or you or whoever their contact with Coval is and they can't do that $600,000 build when they can afford 300,000. So setting realistic expectations in the beginning is really important for me. So I can help those participants that are building. They know exactly where they are. So they can add those nicer countertops or the flooring or whatever they want to do. So they know what their budget is. One of the things too is going to be whether or not, do they own the land right now? Are they buying it right now, or do they need to start looking for the land? Finding out what your budget is before you go and pick out your home is really important. And with the land, because if you're purchasing land at the same time, the sellers of the land need to be willing to take that time and that closing, if you're doing it all together, to wait for your bids, plans, and specs to come back, because we can't do an appraisal until we have that. You can't apply for permits until then. You can't, there's certain things you need to have, and all that takes time. So determining whether or not you need to buy your land before or during the process is really important. Part of that is, the most common myth about construction is, do I have to pay for everything up first and then get my loan? And I strongly suggest, even if you own your property, have a conversation with your lender to find out what their program is. May not want you to do everything up front. They may want you to have reserves so that they can build that into the loan, because it makes sense so that you have more buying power. So it's going to be a case-by-case basis, but definitely talk to your lender about that. And they start, another one is, should I get my land and my plans and my builder before I start thinking about a loan? I would do it completely opposite. Find out what your budget is, then make a plan and see what that looks like. Maybe go talk to the builder. Maybe that's not the right home plan for that piece of property, because as a builder, what's going to fit and what makes sense, and boundary lines and things like that. And then another thing is, the myth is that construction loans are difficult to qualify for or require a large down payment, depending on the build. And for loans under 725, for us, we have a little bit higher jumbo loan. You can have as little as 10% down. If you own your land beforehand, is with or without a mortgage, that's going to make all the determination on the loan to value different, whether or not you need to have PMI, whether or not you have compensating factors that you've already had, water, power, septic, or sewer on your property. All those things matter. So having that conversation with the lender in the beginning is really important. You're not obligated to anything having a conversation, but it kind of at least starts the ball rolling and get you thinking about what that lender is looking at when they're trying to put your loan package together.
Yeah, that's really good to hear all that. There was a few things I wanted to pick out in there in your description there, Rebecca. As far as that process goes with how the lending fits in with the builder, where we, for you to do what you mentioned, that initial appraisal, you need a couple of things. Don't correct me if I'm wrong. You need a written, approved, agreed upon contract with the builder, and you need official blueprints, not some, random page from a website with color on it, right? You need something official, right?
We are seeing it's about a 50-50. Appraisers get to decide based upon those plans if they want them engineered, or do they have enough information in your contract that it has the dimensions of the build. A lot of times they don't have to be engineered, but the dimensions are important for them. But we do need to have the bids, plans, and specifications from the builder, plus owner bids. So anything that the owner's responsibility for, bids of how much it's going to be for the permitting from the county, to prepping the land, to hooking up electrical and water and septic and all these different things, trash removal, the portable toilets, things like that that people don't think about. We need everything. So starting out knowing what a budget is, plus there's always a contingency that needs to be added to that owner's portion for anything that is, there's cost overruns. We've seen a lot over the past 2 years that things change. It was lumber, then electrical components, then it was plumbing components. So there's all these other factors that individuals need to start thinking about. Yeah, I want to do it myself. You can do it yourself, but most of the time, the lenders will require a bid from a licensed contractor. So thinking about all the things that you need to do on there, and it's not hard. You just need to know what steps to take at what point in your process. And your lender can help you with that and let you know these are typically the owner responsibilities that are part of your build. And then, here's the timeline it kind of looks like. Here's, each one has their own different package, but they're very similar. You start looking at other lenders that do this type of build.
Yeah, thank you. And the that process, it can be a little bit daunting. For a lender like yourself to be able to say, okay, I have all of your financial information. I know that your budget is this much, but what are all the little things that are going to actually make that budget, right? You can't necessarily work with somebody just sending you, here's my spreadsheet of what I think all this is going to cost, right? You need, here's specific bids from licensed professionals, right?
Right.
Yeah,
to include tax on each one, and do those bids fit in with our line item of our cost breakdown sheet, the way we pay out. For us, everything is done by installation and inspection. So if you want to be paid for foundation, and we need to make sure we've got the right number for foundation. If we undercut those figures, it's really going to be detrimental towards the time when, after the appraisal comes back and those numbers are not where they need to be, do we need to start that process over? Right. It's going to be a disappointment to that homeowner that, this process has taken longer and I'm ready to move forward with my build. They're not meeting any of their deadlines. So,
well, that right there is the key. I always tell all of our homeowners two things. My favorite thing to tell them is, I promise you, I'll never be your loan officer. So I just encourage them, please speak directly with one of our loan officers like Rebecca about your financing, about your pre-approval, but also how all those things are fitting into your budget. But then the other thing that I'm always trying to encourage people to do is, if they know what their general budget is and they're being smart, if they're allocating a large chunk, they know it's large enough. They don't have the exact number, but they know it's big enough to where safely we can have this chunk for the site development, pre-construction planning, permitting, all the odds and ends, little things. If all that makes sense with getting their pre-construction set up, pick their house plan, get in there as many things as you can. It's easier to delete things than add things for us as a builder, and get your blueprints going. It takes weeks just to get the engineered blueprints all done. So anything you would say about that process on when they first get started with the builder, and any advice to speak on that, Rebecca?
Knowing how long it does take to get the blueprints, and knowing that you cannot submit for county permits until you have that. So depending on the county you're in is going to dictate how long it's going to take them to. For us, we just need to know and see where you've applied for the county permit. But in order to begin the build, to do your dirt work, so to speak, you're going to need those permits approved. And Coval's not going to start the process and then to meet their deadline of when they need to start.
We could if we would, if we were able.
It's going to be determined based upon whether they have permits to start. So knowing how long the permit process is going to be from the county that you're building in is really important to know, that you can kind of work backwards and kind of figure out, when do I need to have all these things in? When do I need to start my loan process? Or understand, it's hurry up and get everything in and then wait, and then hurry up and get everything in and then wait. And that's kind
Exactly.
of how build is.
Yeah,
But,
hurry up and wait.
yeah, it's important. As I said, it kind of goes back to the, talking with your loan officer. Your loan officer understands each county's different, kind of knows the ins and outs of this, how long this county, the process takes. This is how you get the information to them. Most counties' websites will have a website to kind of give an idea per square foot what those permit costs are going to be. And there's a drastic difference between Pierce, King, Thurston, Kitsap, Mason County. A vast difference in the cost. It could be 11,000 in Mason County. It could be 23,000 in Pierce County. And literally, it's 2 miles right now from here, from Mason to Pierce County. And so all those, that's a big dollar amount difference. So knowing where you're going to build is important, so you can figure out what that cost is going to be.
Yeah. And that process of figuring out this cost, putting the whole puzzle together, it's normally done, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's because I'm not a part of our finance team, right? But all that kind of stuff is normally done leading all the way up until we actually, as the builder, close the loan help you guys close the loan and then start the foundation work. The loan's not usually closed until around that same time of construction starting, right?
Correct. So the process for us would be, having that initial conversation, letting them, finding out what their finances are. This is what appear that your loan amount could be. Then getting all the bids to stay within that, that dollar amount. Starting the process with Coldwell, getting the contract solidified and the plans drawn. Once the plans come back, then that's when we have the full contract, all the bids, plans, and specifications from Coldwell, and all the owner bids. Then we start the process of sending out the loan estimate, and the process of saying, yes, you want to move forward, and then ordering the appraisal. The appraiser needs to see all the bids, plans, and specs for the build in order to determine what that potential value is going to be at the end of the build. And they visit the site, they look to see, compensating all the other comps around the area. The homes in that area may not be brand new homes, maybe homes that are several years old, but are similar to that new build. Then they determine what that appraised value is. Then it goes, final, underwriting, and then the loan gets closed. Then the start of the build itself happens. But that whole process, from the time you start the loan to the time it closes, ideally we'd like everything to be in 30 days, but that's not happening right now.
I was going to say that is so fast.
We can't determine the appraiser's timeline. The appraiser gets to do that, but we'd like to do it all within about 45 days. Sometimes could be 60, but 45 days is, a really good idea of what that process would be. But then it starts, then your construction timeline starts. And right now, it's determined by Coldwell really what that's going to be. Typically, it's a year process. It could be sooner, it could be 9 months, 10 months, it could be a little bit more. And, we try to look at it as a year, and look at each individual build as a case by case, because no one's the same. Every build is different. Every property is different. Every plan is different. Every county is different. So we do have guidelines that we like to stay within, but we are also flexible to, know that this build is going to be a little bit different because of, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. No, that's good advice too. I think something that me and Miranda have told many clients is try to think of this as a journey. You kind of have to get pretty quickly, you have to get comfortable with being a little uncomfortable. Like, building a home has so many different moving factors, and the financing, it has so many different things. So we just encourage our clients to just, it's almost like a picture that's blurry. As you get further along, it's going to get more in focus, and there's going to be time and things you can do to make it, make it a successful build. But yeah, we don't have easy jobs, do we? We got a lot going on.
Exciting. There's a lot going on, and I try to help guide that process and make it as easy as possible on those homeowners. But there'll be things that that will be different and unique on each build that I may have not seen before, but we'll work through it. And that's the beauty of it. It's different each time. So, you know,
Mhm.
that's exciting for me. I like to be able to help people find their forever home. Most of the time, they think this is their forever home, or maybe it's their fifth build they've done, and it's just as exciting the first time as it is the fifth time. So,
Yeah, we feel very much the same for sure. Again, we still have a little bit of time left to, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to post those. But I know we're covering a lot of different things right here, and really appreciate you being so open and honest, Rebecca. It's a lot of good experience, you know. Can I ask you too, like for customers that you get, is there, and I know you've already mentioned a little bit of this, but I'm just wondering if there's anything else. Is there any specific advice you give to people on maybe how to view the project, or, you know, are there common mistakes people make, or common problems they run into that you try to encourage people around? Anything like that that comes up as sort of advice for building?
I would say it really has to come back to you don't want to be at the cusp of the edge of every single thing, you know, borrowing absolutely as much money as you can.
Or time, right?
You're right. It's really, you know, you want to leave yourself with a little bit of wiggle room. You know, don't go if like the exterior paint, you know, if it's you've got one for $10,000 and one for $7,000. Make sure when you're looking at that $7,000 one, yeah, it's $3,000 less, but what does it entail? What do you need? Are you cleaning up after yourself after the painter comes? Because you do have things that, you know, oh, I'll just take the stuff to the dump. Well, we kind of need to know more than just what you're going to take to dump. Is it, you know, is a company, you know, trash removal company going to come in, and is that going to be $1,000 and for the entire length of the build? Or are you having to do a trash run every month, and it's $200 each time? So there's a difference in cost. So don't undercut the cost of the build. If you don't use the funds, great. You can typically put that right back into the balance of your loan if you want. You know, each lender is going to be a little bit different, but don't undercut. You know, don't try to save money on certain things when in the long run it might not save you any money. You know.
Yeah, that is good advice. And Miranda, did you I know we're still, you know, waiting on any questions that anyone has, but Miranda, did you have any questions that you wanted to ask Rebecca while we still have time remaining?
Yeah, I think that one question I commonly get asked is what happens with the loan when the home is completed?
For us, we do an automatic rollover from construction into conventional. And so we have one closing cost in the beginning, right when the loan gets approved. That's closing costs then before you start your construction. There are other lenders that do a two-process closing. So it really is going to depend on the lender and what that means and whether or not there's costs associated with that. We don't have a secondary cost to roll it in from construction to conventional, but for us, it would just roll right into that. At that time, if there's any funds left after all bills have been paid, that borrower can take the cash, you know, that they have left either in cash. They can put it back to the principal balance of their loan. There's multiple things you can do. You know, if you didn't, maybe you didn't put landscaping in on your build when you were doing it, but now you have additional funds, you know. Just know that whatever you have not put on your build, you will not get credit for. So if you don't spend, you know, get bids for 5,000 for landscaping, putting in shrubs and things like that, that will be reflected on the appraisal as well. So, you know, if you are, you know, I'm going to do not as nice cabinetry, maybe in your laundry room, or the flooring, you know, in another room is not as nice, that will be reflective. You can always upgrade throughout the process. Maybe you were going to do laminate in your laundry room. Now you want to do tile. You can always upgrade, but you can never downgrade from your appraisal. Whatever you decide you're going to put in the project in the beginning, that's what you need to continue on with, or of like value. you can't downgrade through that process. That's another one I thought of that sometimes happens, and people think of it because that'll affect your appraisal, which can affect your loan. So
Thank you.
You say, in a perfect world, when the loan is closed, it's closed. It's like you just
Right.
move on, right? You just
Right.
keep going what you planned, right? Yeah. Thank you. And we actually did just get a question in. Thank you for your question. Maybe this might be something, Rebecca, that you might hear a lot. How does it work when you are in a home while you're building? So you're already in a home, but you're trying to build a new home.
Mhm.
What advice would you have on that, Rebecca?
If
Thank you for the
you're
question, by the way. Sorry.
right, if your income can support you staying in your current home, then you would have to. It really is going to depend on the lender and depending on the situation, the circumstance. But some people do not need to sell their home before they're start their build. Really, it's going to come back down to your reserves and your down payment and what kind of liquid funds you have available, and then what your debt to income ratios are and what that lender requires. So again, it's going to be situational. Some people can do it, some people can't. Some people need to sell their home, rent during the building process. Some live with family. I mean, it's going to be definitely situational and into what that is. Some people have an RV on the property and save money that way while the build is going on. So each case is going to be unique, and each individual, I would look at their circumstance differently and see where they're at.
Thank you. Yeah, good question. We've got a few minutes left if anyone wants to bring in any last minute questions, but yeah, again, Rebecca, it's awesome being able to talk to you and have our questions answered and hear how things are going right directly from you. Because me and Miranda, we get questions all the time. And again, we're like, please, we would love to be able to answer those questions, but it's not what we specialize in. And we don't ever want to tell somebody the wrong thing, So your advice is very, very appreciated. And thanks again for joining us again. I think we did one of these, a year ago or so, and we're happy to have you back, and we'll probably do more in the future. So we really appreciate you coming.
Thank you again for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Miranda, did you have any other thoughts or question in the few minutes we have left?
Nothing I can think of. I think you've really covered everything. And I think this is going to prove very beneficial.
Yeah.
And I just want to reiterate again, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you again. I think the biggest thing is that homeowners will always have questions, even after that initial conversation, email, one question will trigger something else, a thought, and going forward. So there will always be questions and changes throughout the process that, can be frustrating, but just know that that's what Coval's there to do, to help them through the build part. I'm there to help, through the financing and get it, get this rolling. Even, for OliFed, even after the build process, even after you're done and you've moved into your home, we're still going to be there and still try to, help you move forward to that next phase. Maybe you want to go back and build a garage or an ADU or something else, that is something that will always continue on. And I think that's important to you when you're looking at a lender. How are they going to help you just beyond that initial build? So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. I think we'll go ahead and close this out. But I just want to again thank you, Rebecca, and also everyone who attended. Your contact information is right there on our website. So for any of you who are watching that haven't spoken to Rebecca before, but you'd like to. Feel free to message me or Miranda or your other Coval home consultant if there's a different one you're working with. Covalhomes.com. You go right on there. We have our finance page, Rebecca's personal phone number and email and everything there. You can reach her at. And again, thank you very much for all the work you do with Coval and for our customers. And thanks for spending a little bit of your time with us again today, Rebecca. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Awesome. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. and we'll be in touch soon. Thanks again.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.